This is a 26th episode, and we don't have a theme song, so I'm singing this silly tune. Oh yeah! Alrighty then, good summer to everybody there joining in for another episode of the Minsk and Friends Speakeasy. This is your host, Minsk.
And it's your boy, Jonathan.
Ya boy, we talked about this. We're trying to be all trendy, like all the other YouTubers, and putting on that ya boy mode.
Yes, being all excited and cheerful about it too.
Yeah, because it really matches our wavelength to try and be like that. So don't forget to smash that whatever button. I don't freaking know. If you have a button at home, folks, you'd like to smash, then now's an opportune time to do it.
Yeah, we don't really care what button it is.
It really doesn't move us either way. Whatever floats your boat, dear viewer. But yes, you're here now to listen to us ramble about video games today. And it's going to be a bit of a grab bag of games today, a bit of a half-year report. We did one of these last year as well, so now we're popping in to also give a few choice recommendations of games that have been coming out here. And, some other news which might be taken care of. But just to begin with, how has the summer been for you now, as we are in July?
It's been so busy that I didn't even realize we were in July until we were supposed to start recording this thing.
You were still living in June. Yeah. No, it's wacky how that goes once again.
Yep.
Unusual length of time, but the weather hasn't been mega summery here as of recent. Have you been able to get out and about at all in June at all?
Yeah, just their regular going outside stuff. Like we don't have a cottage or anything like that, so we haven't gone for anything like that. But it's been fine. I actually prefer that it's a little bit like this rather than out and out hot all the time.
I do agree with that. Actually, it was 25 degrees Celsius for the first time in a long while a few days ago, and I was immediately reminded that I don't really enjoy once it starts to get to that point. It was starting to get sweltering. But I realize this is some real lightweight talk for all you folks out there who deal with 30 plus degrees summer on the regular, but yeah, what can I say? We live in the cold, frigid Arctic, as so many people say.
Yeah, it was tough enough already when I went to the south of France in May, and it was like on a really bad day, it was almost 30 degrees, and that was already a bit too much.
yeah, and I presume also nonstop blaring sun.
Yeah.
Not right now. Right now, it's different than that. So this is an opportune time for us to hunker in and talk a little bit about video games indoors. Proper weather for that. So, you've been really busy playing games. I've been a little bit lighter. My attention has been elsewhere. If folks want to hear about the many musical concert goings I've had, I have another show on my channel, Metal Albums with Birds on the Cover. The opening preambles usually deal with all the various concerts I've ran at, which this summer seem to have been quite plentiful, so please pop in on that. But yes, I have had a slightly less time for playing various games here, but I do have a few to mention. But you had been a very busy gamer, trying to keep up with the deluge of releases that we've been having this year, I do believe.
Yeah, I was just looking at just this year alone, I've already reviewed. Let me actually check. I had the number here somewhere. So, since the 1st of January, I've reviewed already 30 different games on just my site alone. And then another maybe 10 or 15 for a couple of other sites that buy these things.
Yes, which means a rate of 5 games per month, really. If you consider up to the end of June there.
Yeah, so it's quite a lot at the moment.
And not small games either. Some of them are the more indie outings, but you have also put in quite a few hours in the giant AAA outings as well.
Yeah, because I think the opening of the year, the January and February were quite tough because we had in In succession, there was the Donkey Country Returns, followed by Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, followed by Avowed, followed by Assassin's Creed Shadows, followed by Doom Dark Ages.
Yeah, it's been nonstop, kind of, if you're paying attention to those kinds of games. Yeah.
Yeah, I did not review Clair Obscur. I played that on my own, like free time. But even that, I'm kind of glad that I got a little bit of a break and didn't have to put that in, because that would have happened right between like all of those.
Yeah, it was kind of in the middle. Big props for how that was a bit of a surprise breakout hit. I didn't think it'd be as popular as it would be, but real nice for the devs, like that they got such surprise success with that. But yeah. So yeah, well, why don't we then talk about some of the games that have piqued our fancy here? Why don't you talk about something first?
Well, I have like an unofficial top 5 at the moment, so I'll start with number 5, which would be Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii.
Ah, right, okay. Goro Majima's delightful, extra wacky Yakuza romp.
Yes.
In Hawaii. Yeah. I'm glad this is good, because it looks like a real crazy swing, even for a series which is notable for its wacky content. Like, this one seems a step even further.
Yeah, it's super silly and super kind of out there in a way that you kind of have to treat it as a complete kind of unreliable narrator type of side story, because otherwise it would like... There's some people have been complaining about how, because it ties a little bit into the ending of the previous Infinite Wealth.
Yeah.
But I think, and I agree with the complaints, that if you actually look at it as a semi-sequel or something, a side story to that, it does take away from the dramatic power of Infinite Wealth. So it's easier to kind of look at it just as its own, Goro Majima being just really absolutely a lunatic for however long it takes you to play it.
Which is on par for his brand, so it's not like that's immersion breaking. To just be like him bullshitting something seems completely reasonable.
Yeah, and like this is a game that starts off with a big musical number, and it only goes more insane from there.
Yeah, like there is an actual jet-powered pirate ship, as far as I've been able to tell.
There is, yeah, and it's like it's wild in the sense that you can clearly tell where they kind of had to cut corners to make this game so fast as they did, but it's so charming and fun that it doesn't really matter, at least to me. It's quite repetitive toward the end game, but the story itself is really fun. The characters are great, and it's this was the first time that I actually played the game with the English dub, because it was actually so good that it was worthwhile to experience it that way.
Yeah, Matthew Mercer still continuing as the current voice of Majima, an inspired choice for sure. It makes sense now because it's set in Hawaii, so there's like a larger like English-speaking cast in the like actual characters. So I suppose it makes sense to try the English dub then in the mix there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I'm still like over the moon that Samoa Joe somehow appears, so seemingly sort of kind of as himself, but not really. But
yeah, it's barely like thinly veiled to be him, but it's very funny.
Incredibly. Yeah, I'm very delighted that he got his moment in the spotlight in a Yakuza game. It seems on brand for him as well. I'm really delighted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting that because Ryuga Gotoku Studio they seem to be kind of doing like the yearly release thing, but they're kind of the masters at reusing assets from previous Yakuza games or Like a Dragon games, and also reusing in a way that doesn't come off as like not too terribly egregious. So even like this kind of wacky spin-off game seems to come off as a really good like effort, despite the kind of like and with, as far as I can tell, like minimal sweatshop conditions to keep up the pace. So kind of a bit of a miracle story, the studio, in some sense, what they're pulling off.
Yeah, pretty much. And like I think this is a good if this is like the last thing that they do of this for a little while, because they did say that they're taking a little bit of a break for whatever Project Century is.
Right, yeah.
So I'm hoping that now we just kind of, we'll have a little bit of a Yakuza break or like a Dragon break, and then go and see what the heck the new stuff is, because that looks like a really great step into another direction.
It's crazy. I think it Stranger Than Heaven or something is what the title was revealed to be. But yeah, Project Century was its original name. Yeah. That is, taking some really bold choices. It's dealing with a time period that I feel like just contemporary casual Japanese media is usually a little shy to talk about, like wartime Japan. So I'm like, what they have to say about that and like where they go with that is very tantalizing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we'll have to sit on that for a while. Do you remember? Did they announce yet when that's going to be coming out?
No, but there's a lot of talk that early next year, or at the very latest, like in the spring, because they do make these quite quickly, and like a lot of folks are mentioning that it is further along than they are letting us on. So I wouldn't be surprised if, like, at a certain games festival this August, we would be seeing more of it.
Yeah. Well, it would keep up with the whole yearly release thing, which, as mentioned, they've been doing with shocking success. Kind of tagging with like side stuff, like Pirate Yakuza, and then like another quote unquote mainline entry, if you count the Judgment series as mainline entries, and they put a lot of effort in the Judgment games, so I think it's fair to call those the more marquee releases. So yeah, like coming out next year would be would match that kind of timetable.
Yeah, because they revealed it in 2024, and they had been working on it for 2 years at that point.
Right.
So around like a 3 to 4 year production time is kind of on brand for a bigger, newer title with them, because they tend to do like a new Like a Dragon game every 2 years.
Exactly. Yeah, and this seems to kind of be that now. Now that well, obviously I have no idea what happens in Infinite Wealth since I'm so far behind chugging along with that series, but I understood that it's kind of closure of a chapter kind of thing, like a story arc coming to a close. So yeah,
it's very much like a Avengers Endgame type of thing for the franchise.
Yeah. So it makes sense that like they're not immediately gonna warm up another like big splashy Yakuza thing,
Yeah, I'm excited for it. Like, the trailers have looked really good, and I'm really, really hoping that we get to see more of it, or even maybe get some gameplay of it soon.
Yeah, likewise. Very interesting. But yeah, good stuff. Always glad to hear that Like a Dragon keeps on killing, or that studio in general keeps it up the way they do.
Yeah, it's still very much one of my favorite franchises. Like, it's one of those where you're like, I acknowledge all the issues that it does have, but at the same time, they're always so much fun to play that I don't really care.
Yeah. I guess that's the only problem with the big turnaround is like I personally really do feel like I need to take a break between installments, a break that might be a little bit longer than just a year. So like the series keeps growing faster than I can consume it, unfortunately. Which is a good problem to have, really, but also is a bit daunting.
It's true, yeah. And then, like, that's even not accounting for, like, because I think last year was a big, like, Dragon year, because there was Infinite Wealth last year? I think it was last year.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, but it was like that, and then I had a replay of the entire franchise on my own, and then there was also the Amazon Prime series that came out.
Oh my god, I forgot all about that. Yeah.
So that was like a big, like a Dragon year.
Yeah.
So I do think that now it's nice to have a bit of a different kind of a year happening with Project Century.
Cool down with something completely different. Yeah. All right. Well, let me talk about one game that I finished here recently, which was pretty interesting. An Italian-made. I'm not sure if it's indie or like AA. It's kind of skirting around there, called Steel Seed. Did you ever notice this when this game came out?
I think I did a promo of Steel. Was it Steel Seed? Steel Seed, yeah.
Steel Seed, yeah.
Yeah, I think I did a promo of that at Gamescom last year.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. It was I enjoyed at least what I got to try out of it at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely it's enjoyable. It was advertised to me as like, an entry in stealth platforming, and like, like a bit of like a more like smaller budget one that's just kind of like that experience. And I was like, oh yeah, I want to support like a smaller dev to try something like that out. So it intrigued me, and it kept me for the, I don't know, 10 or so hours that it took me to beat the game. Hold on, actually I have the stats here. Yeah, it took me a little shy of 12 hours to play through this game. Yeah, I think you can tell that I think it's a small company, or like small dev team, and maybe like I'm pretty sure they're a bit new on the scene, so it's a little bit unpolished at times. The production values aren't always like impressive, but I found it a compelling kind of sci-fi action adventure. The plot is pretty bare bones. It's very kind of inspired by... Oh gosh, do you think it's okay to spoil Horizon Zero Dawn at this point?
I think it's fine.
Yeah, it's been quite a few years, and there's already a sequel. So spoil the big twist of Horizon Zero Dawn is coming now. Please skip ahead by 5 minutes if you don't want to know about this. But it's the similar situation where humanity has kind of ruined the Earth, and they've built machines to kind of keep humanity in stasis while the machines like terraform the planet and make it like sustainable again. And the situation you come up in is that you are the creator of this system, their daughter, who is kind of brought back to like cyborg life to basically fix the situation, because the machines have kind of like gotten stuck and are not returning humanity back from their stasis. So you have to run around and collect your father's kind of AI, like archives of his like AI like mind, to like bring him back so that the sitch can be fixed. So that's the very simple premise. In practice, you go through these very, very sci-fi environs using a lot of platforming and stealth to deal with the rogue machines and kind of like work your way through, to get to the like, data caches that you need. So it's not like at no point is it like particularly like groundbreakingly original in its storytelling or its gameplay loops, but it's just like a satisfying example of this kind of stealth platformer that I'm a fan of that genre, so I was really happy to jump through it.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of the kind of games that we got during the era of the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360, where
Yes.
like every month or so we would get like a good double A, like a mid-budget title that was somewhere in the vicinity of 20-30 euros and
Yeah.
could be completed pretty quickly, and you could create an entire library of these really solid, if not all-time classic games. And I really hope that we would start seeing another another kind of resurgence of them, because I'm more than happy to play stuff like this.
Yeah, it feels a little bit like faint praise to say that this was such a little tiny little like nice, effort, but like it really felt nice to just like do like a little bit of stealth platforming for like a few hours of my life. Like, it was pretty well packaged like that. And I'll say visually what the game really does well is it really wants to sell you on a sense of scale. Like the facility that the machines have built is cartoonishly huge. Like most of the not most, half of the areas you wander in, you just see these expanses like going so far out, like, and it really does somehow sell you on that. You feel so tiny wandering around on some of the like platforms and stuff you go around on. And around halfway through the game, you have to go like find this digging robot that's like this big kind of sandworm, like a robot sandworm from Dune. And it is really impressive how you kind of see it throughout the level where it's resting, and you just keep getting closer and closer, and like it is way, way bigger. It just like somehow becomes even bigger the next time you like come out of like a cave or building to like see it again ahead. When you finally like get up to it, and it's just like this towering mountain, the face of the worm like above you. Like that was really interesting that they kind of got that that kind of sense through. So I wasn't sure what an engine they were using here, but they used really good trickery to sell you on like insane architecture throughout this game.
I will have to actually play the full thing when I get a chance to. Hopefully, sometime during the summer.
Yeah, I recommend. I recommend you got a little bit of a slow moment to like put some time into it. Its presentation's a little weak. Then outside of that, like or like what I mean is like the voice cast is definitely a little bit amateur here, and the cutscenes are pretty rudimentary. So yeah, that's probably the area I would like skimp on the like cut costs on to focus on the other areas as well. So I can understand the choice, but it's not gonna like impress you, I don't think, on any of those fronts. It's just gonna be like more about the action adventure hopping and all right combat as well. In the early game, you really want to focus on stealth because the combat is challenging and a little bit clunky. But by the end of the game, you have to do a couple of mandatory fights, and it's kind of interesting. By that point, you have built up enough experience and abilities that it didn't feel terrible when the game turned to that. But yeah, towards the end, it kind of has played itself out. Like, it really couldn't have been an hour longer even anymore, I think. It kind of showed everything it had to show by the time. But yeah, all in all, like this is a really impressive, I think, first effort by this team. So I think the developers of Steel Seed are worth to keep an eye on.
Awesome.
So what else can you recommend out of some of the packed games that you happen to play?
Well, on number 4 it's a little bit of a cheat because it's a tie, but they're smaller indie games, so I figured that they'll count as one big one.
Sure, yeah, let's go with that.
Out of Sight and Ender Magnolia Bloom in the Mist.
Oh yeah, we talked about Elder Magnolia, the sequel to Elder Lilies, or sort of, kind of, at least, by the same developers as Elder Lilies.
Yeah, like a spiritual sequel, I guess.
I guess so, yeah.
But yeah, Ender Magnolia was a surprise to me because I had not played Ender Lilies. But luckily it was not a requirement because like even for like a first timer, it does a really good job of kind of explaining what the heck is going on.
Yeah.
But it's just really, really a super pretty Metroidvania with a really fascinating kind of a post-apocalyptic steampunky world to explore, a really great combat mechanic, and it's one of those where it's just long enough that just as you start feeling that it's getting a little bit tedious, the game ends. Nice, yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, great soundtrack, great atmosphere, and it's like a really small budget title. Like I tried to like do a big review on it, and I realized like about halfway through writing it that like there's not a huge amount of stuff to say about it without starting to repeat yourself, because it does a very simple thing, but it does it really well. So it's like if you've played Metroidvanias, you will know everything about this. Like it's, especially if you're a older gamer like us, it's not going to surprise you at any point. But it is so. It's again one of those games that is just really, really well made that I really enjoyed my time with. Okay, yeah, I'm glad to hear that. And both Ender games have been something I've been meaning to play on my channel, but it's just never been like a really good spot to throw in a Metroidvania. I ended up playing Moonscars because of circumstances, So, but I'm really, really intrigued. They seem really charming, the Ender games. So. It's on my radar. Yeah, at least based off of this one, I would very, very warmly recommend them. Yeah, and what was this other one then? If you can also say real quick about that, the other that shared the spot. The other one is a smaller Swedish title called Out of Sight, which is it was described to me as a second-person horror story which is only it takes about 2-3 hours to complete. It's a very linear kind of a one-time thing, but it's such a cool concept. It's like it's like a cross between I don't know if you played this old PlayStation 1 game called 40 Winks.
I remember the name. I don't think I ever got to play it, but yeah, that was a kind of an indie darling on the PlayStation. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a platforming adventure game about kids in like stuck in a dreamland, having to kind of navigate through this kind of a world that was always a little bit too big for them because they're kids.
Yeah.
But it's like that, Silent Hill and Metal Gear Solid all thrown into a blender.
Okay.
So it's like a minimalist horror story about a blind little girl who has been kidnapped by this kind of very, very hazily described and presented cult. But she wakes up in a room of this mansion, realizing that she can see through the eyes of her teddy bear that she has as a toy, and it's like a mystery how this happened. But she realized that as long as she holds onto the teddy bear, that she can see. So you control the game as her, but then your eyes are the teddy bear. So if you put the teddy bear down at any point, the camera angle switches to like an old school locked perception kind of a thing.
Right, and obviously I assume like there's constantly situations like puzzles and stuff where you have to like free your hands up to like do stuff, so you have to figure out where to place the teddy bear to like have the view of what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And then like you can't climb with the teddy bear in your hand, so you have to put the teddy bear into a place where you can then climb and then go and pick the teddy bear up again. And like that, and it's a really clever way of how they change out the perspectives, how the world has been built to that. And then like on top of that, there's the whole added terror of being found by the adults who are trying to capture you, because it uses the whole size again, that you're like this 8-year-old girl who is very small, and like the whole world feels even more threatening because you are now seeing it through then something even smaller through this teddy bear.
Right. Okay.
So there's a really, really spectacular sense of scale and really intense mood to it. And I played it both in as a normal experience on Steam, and then I also played it through my Steam VR on the MetaQuest goggles. And both were really, really fantastic experiences. Although I do have to say that I got a little bit of motion sickness, because there's places where like you'll still be looking through the eyes of the bear, but then the game takes control and like grabs you and then moves you and like has you moving as if somebody's carrying you. And that to me was a little bit too much. And I think I enjoyed it more in the traditional way.
Yeah, I can imagine the double layer of perspectives of like you having the headset on, but then you're having to like an outside party like watch yourself. Like that sounds super disorienting.
Yeah, but then like I was really happily surprised at how many risks it was willing to take as a story. Like it's super dark because like you're playing it as an adult, so there's all kinds of really horrifying implications to this entire like what kind of a world is this, or who are these people that have kidnapped you, and like there's so much there that like the game plays really well in like depicting that the girl doesn't understand it because as a child they're just not equipped to understand or understand the world and how bad it can get. But then like as adults playing it, like every small insinuation just opens up the imagination to like, oh my god, that is horrifying. So it's a really wonderful way of playing with audience expectations and our understanding of the world. It's a really, really wonderful. It's I think it took me like only about just under 3 hours to beat. So it's not a long game, but I really, really warmly recommend it, especially like as a that you sit down and you play it through all in one sitting. Very, very good.
Yeah, I'm certainly intrigued. The concept, that's the perfect for like a short game like that, to like really just squeeze out everything you can out of like the the hook, so to speak, and just see like the impressive ideas you can work out of that. Yeah, I really dig that. Okay, Well then, I'll talk about, now we get to games that I haven't completed, so I can't give full reviews, but games I'm playing right now and give my impressions here. I definitely think it's worth me to highlight Cathy Rain 2, Soothsayer, which seems to be the big adventure game release this year, like a classic throwback adventure game. Did you, by any chance, happen to play the first Cathy Rain ever?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, yeah. Well, I didn't play that one either, but like I remember, I think it was in like my wish list at some point because it already piqued my interest back in the day, and now people said the second one's like even better, so I was like, fuck it, let's just jump into it. Yeah, it's once again not really inventing the wheel in any way, but like just doing an old style game super well. It's anything you can imagine from a late 80s and 90s like Sierra adventure game. Like, you play a private investigator called Cathy Rain, who is flat out broke in this big city, and there's a serial killer on the loose, and a bounty is posted for anybody who can help, so she's like, what the hell, I'll help out with this. So you start adventuring, and, if you've played Broken Sword, that's basically exactly what we're doing here. And I friggin' love Broken Sword, so I was, like, in on it very quickly.
Yeah, I'm a huge Broken Sword fan, so that sounds right up my alley.
Yeah, it's a little bit edgier, I think, than, like, some of those, like, a lot of them were kind of fun and jokesy, those 90s adventure games. It's got a little bit more edge, like Cathy doesn't have any problem cursing. She's got an alcohol problem, one of your contacts is an actual drug dealer, and stuff like that, because Broken Sword was a pretty heavy story as well. Like, it dealt with murder and plot and conspiracy and stuff, but, George Stobart is like a pretty, like, clean-cut guy, little average adventure game hero dude. It's got a little bit more grit, this one, to it, but I like it quite a bit. Yeah, you start out with the big old pixely room with tons of stuff to click on and like funny quips of it, like that like immediately fills me with dopamine when it's just your character standing in a room that's chock full of like little interactable environment things. And it's pretty intuitive from the few hours I've put in so far. Like, of course, so many adventure games back in the day with their insane logic. Nothing too bad has hit me so far. It is the first day. The game kind of works in like days, and the first day is a little bit straightforward, dare I say, handholdy. It's a lot like, I need to do this next. I need to figure out, this area and do this thing next. Now, and then my next lead, I should do this. And then I should, like, go on over and there and do this, But then on the second day, once you've gotten leads on all 5 murder victims, it definitely opens up a little bit more of, like, you should investigate all of these and you can kind of do them in the order you want to. And no surprises, like, a lot of areas will have stuff you need to then, like, further in the other, like, area. Like, it's definitely... anyone worried that it's a little bit too straightforward based on the first day alone should be happy if they put in a little bit more time into it.
Cool.
Voice cast is good too. Like, unlike Steel Seed, where I thought like it definitely came off as an amateur effort, I don't know who these folks are, but they're really killing it. So, presentation wise, also just a really good package.
That sounds really cool. I'm putting it on my list as we speak.
Yeah, I recommend it. Like, this is a genre which I'm delighted that somehow always keeps resurrecting itself. You may recall that by the 2000s, like, adventure games were kind of thought to be a dead thing. But no, it just keeps someone always finds the desire to like do these games more, and they're always warm my heart when I get a really good one like this. So yeah, Cathy Rain 2, I recommend it.
Sweet.
All right, what else do you have on your list to talk about?
Well, this is going to be easy because I think we did an entire episode on this, so it'll be very quick, but Avowed.
Oh yeah, go back to Avowed then, yeah.
Yeah, because it's one of the best RPGs of the year. It is again, also a wonderful throwback to old school mechanics. It's exactly as long as it needs to be. Like, it's one of the few games this year that I've completed multiple times. Like I've tried a couple of speed runs to see how fast I can go through it, and then I've tried
Okay.
a longer one where I've just spent ages going through every single quest. But it's exactly the kind of ready-made great package that that I really wish we would see more of. That it was complete when they released it, and you could play it through from beginning to end. It's entirely on the disc as a physical copy, so everything about it is great.
Yeah, yeah. Did I manage to ruin the game a little bit, like we talked about in our episode when I pointed out how stiff the NPCs in a lot of dialogue are? Like, did you notice that once I called it out that everyone kind of stands around like super stiffly next to each other when talking in the dialogue?
I'm not really, because it goes back to that old thing that like I don't really need my NPCs to act like real people in that sense. Like if you can
Fair
find a way
enough.
to make if you can find a way to make it like look cool, then that's fine. But like to compare it to something else like Claire Obscure Expedition 33, which is one of the big darling this year,
Yeah, yeah.
which I thought was fine. It didn't it didn't really blow my world in the way that everybody else seems to have gone nuts over it. But like that has all the same issues. Like the characters are kind of stiff and inhuman when you
Yeah.
go talk to them during like the bits where you're not in combat. And like
Yeah.
that's also the same thing with Refantasio, which
From last year.
from last
Yeah.
year, yeah. And like everybody's just kind of stiff at the same time, so I don't really care. It's not an
Yeah.
issue. I'm more interested in like how it actually feels when you're playing it, and on that front, Avowed is just really really great.
Yeah, and I mainly just called it out as something that stuck out to me, but like it didn't really. You may, yeah. I mean, I wasn't very happy with Avowed when we reviewed it. Like, it's not a deal breaker. I mainly just remember again whenever there was more than one NPC and how they'd really politely stand side by side so they could all face your character when having a conversation, and then they'd lean over to talk to each other if they talk to the others, which was like mainly amusing as a little.
Yeah, you can kind of see where their budget and the kind of the time frame that they've made the game in,
Yeah.
like sits like has limitations, but it's like one of those like at the same time, like if that means that we can get more games like Avowed, more quickly, and everybody gets paid fairly and nobody has to work crunch, I'm more than happy to take that.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. Like again, reasonable, reasonable shortcuts taken in various spots. Yeah, absolutely. These are the ones I'll accept.
Yep.
Yeah, Avowed. Yeah, sure. It's pretty tight.
Absolutely.
Finally, I have only one more game I gotta talk about here. It's the multiplayer offering that just came out that I just wanted to highlight to people because it's more of the returning giant robot genre. Mecha Break was a fairly well advertised free online multiplayer mecha action game. So yeah, of course I put some time into it, especially when they said the price was free. Like, okay, I'll give some time for that. Oh, for this, so definitely. I'm for a free game. I am really happy with Mecha Break so far. It's not. It doesn't have much tinkering in it. I think again because it needs to be balanced for like 6v6 multiplayer. So if anyone was like Armored Core was cool because of all the chances to like customize your mech, you can't really do that here. But even without putting in any real money, you have a choice of 12 different robots which all have kind of different gameplay styles. I think that's a pretty sweet deal for a free multiplayer game. So I was pretty delighted by that. If we get into the nitty gritty, the mecha designs pretty solid. They're going for the very sleek, futuristic look. So it's more it's more leaning to fans of the Japanese mecha genre than the more Western-inspired mech warrior clunkiness. And the speed, of course, we're dealing with some real high-speed robots here, so it's for that audience, but I think it does. And a lot of them are you can tell, they're very much inspired by series like Gundam or Zone of the Enders, stuff like that. Like, they're not hugely original in the designs, but very, very, very lovely. And gameplay is nice and arcadey. The first robot I picked after playing the tutorial sequence, I picked like a high-speed flying type unit, which like walks around normally, but it's got an alternate mode where it kind of turns into an airplane, and that felt really crazy. The Falcon robot can zip around the map really fast. And it feels kind of like playing Ace Combat, when you can like fire like heat-seeking missiles as you strafe people. It was, I wasn't contributing very much to my team as I was trying to work it out, but it felt really satisfying to play this zippy flying unit. And then after that, I was like, well, now I tried the fast flying unit. Let's try a big chunky guy. So I did like this huge block of a robot, which has a ton of missile launchers and cannons, and has like a turret mode where he like hunkers down and like an energy shield shows up, and you can just kind of fire in like this 90-degree arc, just a ton of weapons. And that also, like, two very different gameplay styles, but still both very satisfying and very much, no price of entry. So yeah, I'm pretty happy just based on these two first robots that I tried.
What do you think about the fact that I've been reading about this since you mentioned it to me a couple of weeks ago, that like there's been a lot of complaints about it being pay to win. Have you noticed anything like that?
That's an interesting, because I can't quite tell yet what the advantages for using real money in gameplay would be. It might be that I put more hours in and I start noticing that, but like as far as I can tell, you can't really get any like crazy like special premium weapons or anything. But I have to admit that one of the downsides is that the UI is incredibly obnoxious. You know from the kind of free games we've played, these free multiplayer games, that there's tons of pages and half of them are trying to sell you on the premium currency, and like it's incredibly annoying to navigate. So it's entirely possible I've missed some section of buy the special guns that'll win you the round real quick somewhere in there.
Right. Okay.
That's the cost of entry, is you have to deal with a really obnoxious UI that does want to sell you on stuff, of course. So unfortunate. It is unfortunately what it is, and I totally understand that someone doesn't want to put the headache into this when there's, pay once and have a good robot game options do exist in the world.
Okay.
But I gotta say, the first few rounds, I think, actually, I don't think there's any pay-to-win element, because the first few rounds I've played, most of the people have been not very impressive at the game, so I have actually done really dang well for myself. I've had a couple of losses, and I couldn't tell if it was because of premium currency weapons or anything. But yeah, so far people are still trying to figure out how to play the game, and I felt like it was very easy to like slip in and have a good time.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Although I will admit that the third robot I tried, there's this lightweight sniper robot, which has like several stealth options, and it felt incredibly annoying as an enemy, because it would just pop out and shoot me all the damn time, and like then just disappear whenever I tried to hunt it down. I was like, oh boy, this guy's annoying to play against. As soon as I tried to play at it, of course, I got my ass handed to me, even though like it's got so many options. But everyone was just tracking me down all the time and wiping me out. So there's also these high gameplay barrier characters slipped in there as well. But I couldn't. Again, I think it was because I was like trying to figure out how to play the stealth character in an online game. I'm not sure it was that the opponents were using unfair advantages. But yeah, I will also say I do have to call the game out. It is an unnecessarily horny game, as so many multiplayer games want to be.
Oh, but it's mechs. How can it be? If it's just, I am confused.
Fair, quite fair, but the game does want to show off your human pilot in addition to your mech.
Oh, okay.
Is the problem. And look, okay, so skin-tight pilot suits aren't a new thing in this genre, so I'm not saying like Mecha Break is something like, well, this isn't the first time I've had to deal with this. You know, Evangelion has been around for 30 years, obviously, but it is very egregious, the walk animation whenever they show your, like, the female pilot walking around. And whenever you board your mech, like, the camera makes sure to, like, really zoom in on her ass as she's, like, swaddling over into the cockpit. And, like, that kind of like, oh boy, but like, they do that. And I haven't checked out the male characters. I don't know how bad it is. I have a suspicion that even if they zoom in on the male guy's ass when he's walking into the cockpit, I don't think he does, like, a sexy catwalk, like, animation when he's getting in. I have a funny feeling that's the case.
Yes, because if he would also do a sexy catwalk and then the camera would just focus in on his crotch as he gets into the machine, then that would be fine, because then it would be equal opportunity.
Yeah. Well, you know, if that is in the game, I'll eat my hat, you got me, but I got a funny feeling that it's not going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, like, one of the first things you can unlock by logging in on 7 separate days is, like, this more, like, it's like a kind of officer's uniform thing, and, like, I'm working really hard to get that, because I'd rather have a spiffy uniform on my character than the pilot suit thing that I have to put up with for the interim. But, it's nothing new for the multiplayer genre, I suppose, so, you know, I'm not exactly shocking people in some sense here.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting enough that as we were talking, I downloaded it myself, and I'll give it a try, because there are not enough good mech games out there.
No, but Armored Core really helped, I feel like.
Armored Core was great.
Yeah, after 6 came out, like, this genre's really kind of feeling juice again, and I'm pretty happy with that.
Absolutely.
All right, well, I've run out of games to highlight then. I can't remember. If anything else I've played, it's been just for a minute, so I don't really have anything smart to say. So why don't you take the wheel again and tell us about some games?
Well, I have 2 left, so I'll do very quickly on the second one, and then we can do a little bit more on the my best game of the year so far.
Yeah.
I would like to highlight that the new Mario Kart World is actually really, really good.
Oh yeah, of course. I that's very much worth bringing up, because the thing is that Mario Kart 8 already felt like such a culmination of the series. You know, like it felt like it was as good, like it was honed to perfection, the game. So it's really fascinating how they've managed to still somehow, like, brighten up the series with this World Edition.
Yeah, and I think it says a lot about how good Mario Kart 8 was, because it's 11 years old this year.
Right, because it was already on the Wii U, like, slipped in there. Yeah,
it came out in 2014, and, like, it was such a definitive Mario Kart title that, like, I think even Nintendo for a while clearly felt that, like, well, we don't know what to do with this. Like, this is the best Mario Kart we can make. And they released a bunch of DLC for it, and it kind of got a long lifespan because of it. But, like, it was still selling like gangbusters well into last year, because people were still like, this is still the best and only Mario Kart that you need.
I saw people still streaming it like recently, because, you know, not everybody had a Switch 2 yet, so people were still like, oh, we got a jam on Mario Kart 8.
Yeah, and this is something I will say still, that, like, if you have not gotten a Switch 2 yet, if you're still rocking your old Switch, you're not missing out immensely, because Mario Kart 8 is still, like, I still play it too. It's still a great game. It's that Mario Kart World, like, goes into such a different direction with it that it doesn't really compete with 8 in a direct sense.
Right, yeah.
World is really fantastic in the sense that it's way more of a step into, like, it's Nintendo finally stepping into the competitive online world. It's the most accessible online version of Mario Kart to date, because of it's got the knockout tour, and they've reimagined the races to be like big old tours instead of like, singular races where you race around a lap. So all of that is really interesting.
So cool. It's so cool how you launch from like you were doing one race and then you just launch on a highway like across a country to like get to your next spot. Like and it gives a Cannonball Run-esque energy to it that there has never been before.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I really enjoy about it is that it's such a technical marvel in the sense that like everybody kind of, takes Nintendo stuff for granted. But like, I think people should consider it like that the Switch 2 is not like competing with the PS5 or the Xbox Series X. It's like, if you put like the like numbers next to each other on a raw graphical scale, it's more of like a PS4 era in power.
Yeah.
But like it looks absolutely stunning, and the way that it goes from between the worlds without any kind of loading, how it like constantly keeps the momentum going without at any point feeling like that it has to stop to like bring up textures. There's no pop in of any kind. It's really marvelous in terms of how well it's put together, and it's the animations are great. You can always tell what's going on.
Yeah.
And one of the things that really gets me is that like the knockout tour online, which is like 24 players that then get knocked out at every kind of waypoint.
Yeah, the checkpoints always cut off. It's a little bit battle royale-y in that sense.
Yeah, it's like a Mario Kart world of a bubblegum rally. So like at every checkpoint, the 4 slowest players are disqualified, and it's like it becomes really hectic and chaotic because you can tell when people start realizing that we're nearing a checkpoint because suddenly like every single power up is thrown at the same time.
Yeah,
but it never slows down. I have not seen even once like a slowdown where the game would start thinking about what's on screen, even when you have 24 people all at once launching lightnings and bullets and blue shells and everything. So it's a really amazing kind of feat of engineering what they've managed to do with it. And I've put a ton of hours into it. It's a really great. It's like not quite a system seller. I think that the Switch 2 is I did a big review on it, and I think it's a really good console and a good step up. But it doesn't have yet the kind of system sellers that would make it like a definitive thing to get just for those games. But I think that once we get the next Mario and the next Zelda and next year the new Metroid, I think at that point it's going to become the kind of console that you can't really ignore because you'll have so many good games on it that everybody's going to want to play.
Yeah, I hope that's the case. I have to, as an aside, it's fascinating that for the first time, I don't know, ever, can't remember, like Nintendo is just doing the number 2 branding thing. Like the closest was that the Super Nintendo followed up on the NES, and the Wii U was like following up on the Wii. And we all know how that ended when like it really caused brand confusion of was it a new console or just some kind of like upgrade to the Wii. But here they just like, oh yeah, Switch 2, no bells and whistles, which I guess speaks to how insanely like successful the Switch was, that Nintendo feels that the safest thing is to just say that yeah, it's a Switch successor. So yeah, fascinating.
I think there's also a little bit of a concern still. They're still coming over the trauma of the Wii U, where people thought that the Wii U was just a peripheral for the Wii.
Exactly.
So I think they're really wanting to make it clear that no, this is a completely different thing, and it's going to take a while because the Switch is by far the best-selling like home console. Like the only things that are above it, I think, are the Nintendo DS, maybe the PS2.
Yeah, the PS2 I think is still the most successful, but like I think Switch is pretty close coming there.
Yeah, it's like that if it continues as it is, it would probably just go over the PS2 like in a year or two, because Nintendo is still supporting it. They've said that they have no reason not to support it. Yeah. And that's insane considering it's an 8-year-old console that people are still buying. Like it's still, because it is in my mind the Switch Lite is like the best handheld console ever made.
Yeah, I'm certainly happy with it. That's because
Yeah.
I only have the light version, so like yeah, and it's pretty damn good on the train or the bus when you're transiting around. Yeah,
Yeah, I keep my light with me on every single trip that I go to, and I'm gonna take it with me on every trip that I go to until the Switch Lite 2 comes out.
right.
And like,
Yeah,
because it is fantastic. But like, this is a great console, and like, I think I put it in the review that like it's not so much of a console anymore in the sense that it's more like a generational ecosystem product. That it's like the thing that you buy because you want to be involved with Nintendo's everything else. You want to be like it's your access into Nintendo's the games, movies, theme parks, toys, everything that Nintendo is. Like it's just a part of it now. And it's really that you buy a Switch 2 because you want to be part of the conversation with the first party titles, this last and the upcoming generation. And
yeah,
it's that simple. That's what the Switch is for. If you
yeah.
already have like a PS5, an Xbox Series X, or a PC, if you're like one of those, less of a 1% of people who have,
The whole gamut.
yeah, and then like it's harder to start saying that why would you get another console on top of it. Like I recognize how insane it is that I have all of them because I review on all of them.
Yeah,
um but like I still think that if you only bought the first Switch back 8 years ago, coming up on 9 years, if you bought
yeah.
the Switch and you haven't updated since then, if you're still rocking the original Switch, then like I think at the end of the year, depending on what games still come out, or then at the latest next summer, will be the perfect time to upgrade. It'll be like at the 9 to 10 year mark, and
Yeah.
then at that point the Switch 2 will have a stronger lineup of games. It'll be a little bit cheaper, hopefully, unless something continues to go horrifically wrong with the economy. But then like you'll have this console that's going to last you another 10 years, which I think at that point is such a good investment, considering what you get. And then because it's all entirely backwards compatible. Like I tried
Yeah.
out my entire library. I have 140 games for the original Switch, like on physical media, and they all worked. Like
Hmm.
everything just works without any problems on the Switch 2. So it's just wonderful to see Nintendo keeping that up. And like that. So in a way, Mario Kart World and the Switch 2 are my number two for this year.
Get a console as the fair enough. Yeah, it's worth calling it out. It is certainly. It's not like anyone else is coming out with a new console like anytime
No.
soon. So yeah, might as well.
Yeah, I think there's rumors now that we might be seeing a new Xbox next year.
Ah,
But with the state of Xbox and Microsoft right now, who even knows if that's a real Xbox or if it's just like a branded third-party machine?
yeah. The paint peels off, and it just says like
Yeah,
I don't know Ouya
yeah.
Ouya 2 underneath.
This is just a Soulja Boy console or whatever.
Basically, yeah.
But yeah, then my best game of so far at 6 months into the year or
Oh
half of
yes.
the year gone, it is surprisingly Death Stranding 2.
Yes, I've heard you talk about how like shocking it is because you talked on length about the uneven relationship you have with Hideo Kojima's output, and this one somehow has managed to be superlative in his catalog for you.
Yeah, because I've clowned on the fact that Kojima wants to be a film director. Like he's
Yeah,
even said it multiple times. He wants to direct films, and he just happens to have found this career in game design.
yeah,
And for years I've said that his best stuff has always been when he's had really like deliberate restrictions to his vision. Like Metal Gear Solid, was restricted by the technology and the budget at the time, and
yeah.
it's a masterpiece because they did so many amazing tricks and things with it to hide the fact that the technology could not keep with Kojima's idea of what he wanted to
Exactly,
do.
yeah.
But then like when you got to Guns of the Patriots, which was there was nothing stopping him. It was unlimited budget, whatever he wanted to do. It was basically unplayable. It was just it was just cutscenes after cutscenes. Like I think somebody did the math on this. I think it was IGN or GameSpot that did the math on this, and over like almost 50% of the game is cutscenes.
Yeah, famously, there is 1 hour of cutscenes after you beat the final boss, and they actually put a save point like halfway through all those cutscenes.
Yeah, and that to me was like the moment where I realized that Kojima's going in a direction that I just do not care about.
Fair enough. I'll give the other quick take here that as someone who really loved Metal Gear, I appreciated a lot of what was going on there and a lot of the threads being snipped off. So, but obviously that game is kind of unmarketable to anybody who isn't like really deep into the Metal Gear series, since it's nothing but like closing the chapters on the last 3 games, basically.
Yeah. But then like Death Stranding 2, like I did enjoy Death Stranding 1 to a degree. I think that also had a lot of pacing issues. It also had the same thing that like the game starts and then after like a little bit of gameplay, you're stuck into another 45 minutes of cutscenes where the game just explains stuff to you.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, after you get down the hill and you meet the president of the United States.
Die Hardman and
Die Hardman.
Yeah, and I think that stuff was to me like is still like indicative that Kojima wasn't really learning. So imagine my surprise when Death Stranding 2 comes in for review, and I sit down with this, and like the game has incredibly good pacing. Like it never bogs down with like long cutscenes, and instead it feels like that Kojima has spent the last couple of years when he's been hanging out with these filmmakers actually listening and learning on how to tell a story through the mechanics that he has at his disposal.
Right.
So a lot of the game is actually told through gameplay. A lot of the major emotional beats happen during your playthrough, and the game actually like there's moments where the game actually reacts during the playthrough in a way that it's like it's part cutscene and part gameplay that reacts to how you react to the cutscene itself.
Right.
And there's the story itself is the most coherent that Kojima has ever written, I think, at least since Metal Gear Solid.
Which is pretty impressive given how incredibly uncoherent Death Stranding was. Like,
exactly.
What the fuck is going on in this world?
Yeah, so he's cut down so much of the stuff from the first one that was just like getting in the way, that it was tripping over itself, and it just focuses on a really simple story this time. And the characters are, again, some of the best he's done. Like even like Fragile, who was in the first one, I didn't particularly like understand in the first game because it was quite all over the place. And in the second one, they've clearly streamlined it. And she's much better written, much strongly written. And I think that shows in the acting as well. Like all the actors are really, really great. And it has one of the best characters Kojima has ever written in Tomorrow, played by Elle Fanning. Just one of the really, really a fascinating character who has some of the coolest action scenes that Kojima has created as well. So it's like all of this stuff feels like that he's, and this was something I read in an interview, that he got apparently really, really sick during COVID. Like he got a really bad infection, nearly lost his eyesight, was really afraid that he was going to die.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and that caused him to have this kind of moment of like stepping back and reworking a lot of the stuff that he was doing. And you can kind of tell in this game, like I mentioned in the review, that it feels like almost like a farewell tour, like this kind of like, if I don't get to make anything else, I'm going to make this as, definitive of a statement about everything that I think about.
Fascinating.
And I think that comes through. It's a really melancholy, really sad game that ultimately is immensely uplifting and immensely joyous in this kind of celebration of how connected humans need to be, how important found family and community need to be, and how people are not designed or not capable of surviving in like isolation, like what COVID caused us to be. So I was really shocked at how moved by it I was, and how much I enjoyed playing it. And like it took me about 50 hours, a little over 50 hours to complete the story, like just almost running through it. But ever since I finished the review, like I've still gone back almost nightly to play an hour or two of it, because there's still just so much that it is so much fun to play. And it's just such a moody, and the world is so rewarding to spend time in, that I think that it just stands as a testament that Kojima has finally understood where the balance lies. And like he's found a game world and like a playing field that is just limited enough that you can see where the limits are, where you hit the walls, but it doesn't really matter because then like in between those walls is so much to do that you can spend 100 to 200 hours doing that and it won't feel boring at any point.
That's very, very impressive that it's managed to iterate on itself to the point of becoming something like that.
Yeah, it is by far Kojima's best game. It's the one that where he has found the balance between film and games, and I will be shocked if there's a better game this year, but I do hope so because we still have so many titles that have not been announced yet and so many titles still coming in. But like so far 2025 has been just insane considering how many games have been, like I've already given 5 stars to, that have been absolutely fantastic. Like between this and Kingdom Come and Doom, The Dark Ages, between Clear Obscure, between Avowed, Assassin's Creed Shadows, like it's just been a banger after banger after banger for the last 6 months, and like now we're heading into Gamescom territory, we're heading into the Game Awards territory and the end of the year territory, and that's not even counting then what happens at the start of next year when we get Grand Theft Auto.
Is the giant one, of course.
Yeah, so like the industry is having a horrible time. We can't escape the fact that like this won't last. But right now, the games that are finished, that are just about to come out, like if we end up having the kind of same game industry crash as we did during the 80s, I think we're at least going out with a bang of some really great games before that happens.
And not just an unnecessarily huge number of ET copies.
Yeah, if this was like a year where we just had nothing but like a number of ET games, I think I would be much more despondent. But instead we are seeing like a bunch of not only just old school, like classic developers like Kojima, but we're seeing a bunch of new developers come in and deliver like really great titles, showing that there's this immense amount of talent coming into the industry despite everything.
Yeah, so I hope you folks at home can find some big game to release this year to kind of, enjoy, so that if and when this crash happens, maybe your favorite developer, at least got like a little bit of love there, and might survive or somehow.
Yeah,
it's not our responsibility to keep these developers alive, but I'm sure they'll still appreciate it if you got a favorite,
Yeah.
I have to know one more thing before we wrap up about your Death Stranding 2 experience, though.
Okay.
Did you meet Hololive's Usada Pekora in your adventures in the Death Stranding 2 world?
I did, but I did not recognize them.
Aha, but you did encounter a random bunny girl speaking Japanese.
Yes, they are, whatever Usada is, a VTuber, but they actually have a pretty big part in the game, and they are
really?
Yeah, they're located in a place in the game where, like, wherever you're going, they're just in the middle of the path to get there, and they just have constantly like a little bit of like deliveries or stuff that you need to do, and like it's just at this kind of a crossroads place that it makes sense to stop there like almost every run you make. And they keep wishing you to peko on, which was absolutely bizarre to me. So there was a moment I was playing it and my partner walked in and they were just like, what in the hell is happening in this game? Because it had gone from like, the George Miller's character talking about the loss of their child and like being very serious, and then to having a anime girl yelling how you are the best Peko in her Peko squad because you brought them pizza and anime to watch. Which
sounds like the gamer lifestyle. Fantastic. Do any of the other NPCs, do they appear as like anime avatar characters? In which case it would make more sense for a bunny girl anime lady to be in there, or is she like the only one?
She's the only one. And like it's never even acknowledged that nobody even like points out that this is a anime girl.
Right. Well, yeah.
It's just a like it's just there, and everyone's just like, yeah, okay, that's fine. That's an anime girl that we're talking to.
And the important part is that you get a hat for Sam where you can wear a little bunny hat that makes him say Peko all the time, which means that Kojima had to explain to Norman Reedus why they had to record a bunch of lines of him yelling Peko in various tones, and that just really tickles my fancy imagining that day.
Yeah, but weirdly, that is not the weirdest like thing in the game. Like to me, I think the most exhilaratingly weird and funny and like just purely nerdy moment in the game is the fact that there's an entire cutscene involving a kung fu fight inside a makeshift pizzeria where you fight Mamoru Oshii. And Norman Reedus and Mamoru Oshii have a kung fu fight with pizza gear inside a giant pizza parlor.
Aha, okay. So just to clarify, the director of Ghost in the Shell.
Yes, and Pat Labor and Jinro, the Wolf Brigade.
Okay, so he shows up there in a pizza place, and Norman Reedus has a big kung fu fight with him.
Yeah, he runs a pizza place, and you have a big kung fu fight with him, and then like he gives you his famous cap that Oshii wears in public. And he gives you the cap, and then you get to look like that, and they make a comment about how you look like an anime artist.
Okay, I can only assume that Kojima and Oshii were playing the PlayStation 2 Spider-Man 2 game with the pizza delivery missions, and they were like, hey, you know what would be really fun in Death Stranding 2? That I don't know how else this was born, this idea.
I have no idea, but it's one of those things that like there are so many hidden cameos and so many like gags that Kojima has put in that like in a lesser game I would find them to be like really obnoxious and like self-serving. But like in this it feels so much like of the whole statement of like everything that Kojima loves. Yeah, I think that it works just fine.
To elaborate slightly on the Usada Pekora cameo here, like she streamed the first Death Stranding several years ago and like really liked it, and then someone hooked Kojima up with those streams, and he was like, I really like this Bunny Girls content on YouTube, and like she got invited to the offices at some point, and like it just kind of bloomed out of that. And it's basically just Kojima being, Kojima sticks all his favorite celebrities in his video games now, and that includes a Bunny Girl from YouTube.
Yeah, well, that seems to work just fine.
Yeah.
But like I did want to mention one thing, like in terms of Kojima's sense of humor, and this was already in the trailer, so it's not a huge spoiler, but there's like multiple bits where it's clearly, again, Kojima just kind of messing with the player, like George Miller's character, Tarman, who operates the tar currents, like they fly,
just that sentence is like George Miller's character Tarman, who runs the tar currents.
Yeah, and he's lost his arm, and like that's how he can like control it, because his hand itself is somewhere in the tar currents. So he like reaches into the tar, and that's how like he operates the whatever plane with his hand that's lost forever. But when he explains it to Sam, like Sam asks about it, it's like, so do you feel your hand? And it's like well, no, Sam, it's more of like a phantom pain. And then he looks directly at the camera and just like stares at the camera for a little while.
I see. Okay.
So it's one of those where you're just like, okay, we get it, Kojima. You're very funny. Like, God damn it.
Great props. It didn't have a simultaneous PC port, so I don't get to enjoy it yet, but I have this on my radar.
Yeah, I think it'll come out pretty quickly, because PlayStation has now said that they're trying to do them a lot faster, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's 6 months of the PS5 exclusivity. So I would be very surprised if at the Game Awards, when they have the big reveals at the end of the year, that they would do that Death Stranding is coming to PC for the Christmas market. I would be very surprised if that wouldn't be the case. Yeah, it'd
be perfect for me to have a little bit of Death Stranding on the holiday. Okie dokie. Well, that I think wraps up our 6-month first half of the year review, I'd say.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So, Jonathan, do you have any plans for the rest of the year? Anything on the itinerary?
There is this one thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Should we mention this? I think we should mention that we're doing something.
I think we could bring this up at this point. I don't think we have any NDA stopping us from just saying this part out loud.
No, so for Kojima, who is definitely listening, all the developers who listen to this podcast religiously.
Yeah, you guys, you hold on to your butts, all you developers.
Yeah, so it is my 5th year of going to Gamescom, and at the same time, it is the 5th year for my site Toisto. Yeah. So to celebrate that, we are both going to Gamescom this year to do a bunch of vlogs and reaction stuff and hopefully interviews and everything, because this is apparently, according to all the listings, the biggest Gamescom that has ever been. They've had to actually put out more space for all the stuff that's happening, and it is going to be just a massive celebration of gaming, against all the other horrible stuff that is happening. So we're going to be there together for the first time, and if you end up bumping into us or want to come and say hi, we are going to be there.
Yeah, yes, and look forward to some coverage then once this event wraps up. So yeah, this is a Toistonet Minsk and Friends crossover extravaganza, as I get to actually do journalism work myself. This is me dipping my toe into this world, and I am definitely excited to get to actually do a little bit of this scene. So, like, my official capacity will be photographer for Jonathan, provide video and image footage, but obviously we're going to be bumping around there and getting to talk to these folks, so I will be also helping out in the coverage side of things, and yeah, I'm pretty freaking jazzed. I was already like, it was a real, like, this is something I kick myself for not, like, handling, but, already back in the day, I went to Norway a few times, for Retrospielmessen, was this, like, small little grassroots gaming and retro stuff event in Norway. And the one year I went there, they had the developers for Owlboy there. And to my great regret, I hadn't played Owlboy at the time yet, so I didn't really appreciate this opportunity. But, I played Owlboy, and it was a very, like, transformative experience. You can go watch my playthrough that I recorded almost immediately after beating Owlboy, and I just had like this laundry list of questions that formed up. Like, if I had been there and known about it, I would have just loved to pick the devs' brains about so much about what they did. So, I've had this bug a little bit in me, and we've talked about me coming to Gamescom already, like, I don't know, like a year or two ago. So I hope I'll be able to do a good job on this trip when we go there this year.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine, and like I'm really glad that Gamescom is so super accommodating with all this. Like, it was in the end like really easy to reach out and just kind of explain what we're wanting to do, and they were just really great about handling everything, and I'm excited because Gamescom is an experience, and especially when you get to see behind the curtain, like how because it's like a Cannes for the game market. It's just absolutely massive. There's 350,000 people there last year. Yeah. And like, you can't really picture that until you are there. So this year it's going to be really exciting because we're going to be bringing a couple of cameras. I'm bringing in a couple of video cameras, and we're just going to try and like get a ground level view of just showing like how the place looks before everybody gets in, because like we're going to go there already a couple of days in advance, and we're going to go to the opening night live, and we're going to be at the press day when it's like, only about under 10,000 people, all the press who's there and some of the early bird ticket holders who get to come in there. So it's going to be nice and kind of quiet, which is funny because for us, like in Finland, like role-playing con, Ropicon, is like, what, 20,000 people? And that's considered a packed Ropicon.
Yeah, I felt, those events I've been like, oh my god, it's so huge,
Right. So it's going to be fun to get like our first reactions on the day when it's the first day, Thursday of Gamescom, and when we go in and start wandering around the hall when it's the 300,000 plus people, packing out the hall. So that's going to be interesting. And hopefully, like, we've already arranged some interviews. We've already arranged some gameplay stuff. There's still a bunch that's going to be happening. It's every day at this point of just organizing schedules, trying to see who we get to talk to. But we're going to try and see as much as we can. And then it's going to come out, I think, on both of our YouTube channels. I don't know how it's gonna, shake out just yet, but then
we haven't gotten that far yet with the planning, so
and then I'll have written articles coming up in both English and Finnish, so I'm gonna be really packed with work. There's gonna be stuff for Toisto, and there's gonna be stuff for Konsolifin, and I think there's gonna be a couple of articles that a few sites that I can't talk about yet are probably gonna buy. So it's gonna be another really busy week at the end of August. But it's going to be also really exciting because for the first time, I will have a second pair of hands to help out and, somebody that I actually enjoy traveling with. So yeah, let's see how it goes.
Yeah, and I don't think we can really say what we're seeing yet or like who's going to be there yet. But some of the names you have dropped about these industry faces who might be there, rumored to be there. Like, if I'm going to be sitting there, like, talking to these people, it's going to be so surreal. I'm like, what is a freaking complete nobody like me doing talking to this person? That's pretty much all I can say at this point. It's going to be really, really crazy.
Yeah, so a lot of what we're going to be doing now, like, just next exactly 2 months about, what we're going to be doing is just going to be, begging and scrounging for interview opportunities.
Yeah, so Gamescom is, I believe, 19th or the 20th of August, runs for a few days, so you folks can look forward to stuff coming up on our channels, on the August-September interim around that time. And I am confident in saying it's going to be really freaking cool.
Absolutely. So, until then, we are going to go back to work, and then hopefully we'll have something cool in just a short while.
Yeah, for now we're going to be calling it, but there's a lot of stuff for you to look forward to at home, and obviously also just as much for us to look forward to. And I do hope everyone will be tuning in towards the end of summer to hear about how all of that went. But for now, we're going to be signing off and getting on with all of that. So, Jonathan, thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you for, you coming along.
Exactly. And we'll catch you all folks later on in the year. But for now, it's been good. See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye.